What's up guys, welcome to another video. It's been a while since I've made a video, and today's video will be a little bit different. Today we'll be taking a look at graphics cards, and all my AMD reference cards to be exact. Yeah, AMD reference design GPUs. I actually have quite a few of them. Yeah, over the years I've just collected a bunch of them. It's not that much. I won't, name how many I have of them. One of them I'm unsure about if it's actually a reference, but we'll get to that. But yeah, I have quite a few of them, and I really enjoy having them, just as also a collection piece. Even if they are not that good at, you know, doing GPU things, playing games, that sort of thing. Even if they're low end and crappy, if they are reference cards, I like it, and I want to keep it. So I do have a few of them, and I figured we'll just make a video about it. I'll just show them to y'all, tell the story behind it, how I got it, if I know, and if it works perfectly, etc., etc. So, yeah. Sit back and relax as I show you all my AMD reference cards as of right now, which is 3rd of December 2024. So yeah, I just really like these cards, and I haven't really been on the hunt to collect them, but as I've hoarded graphics cards over the years and kind of just bought a couple, but mostly got them from Intership, there happened to be quite a bit of reference AMD GPUs. And what I mean is the cooler is basically the reference design, or the PCB is the reference design, or it's just straight from AMD. I mean, one of those three factors. In my opinion, a graphics card needs to have one out of these three factors to be a reference card. It must have the same cooler as the reference model that is listed on Tech Power Up. It must have the same PCB as the reference design, and be straight from AMD and have no sub fender, but be straight from AMD, or it just has a cooler on it that says AMD or ATI on it, and it's the original same cooler as the reference design model. So that's basically what all these cards have, at least one of those factors. So original PCB straight from AMD, or it's just entirely straight from AMD, or it at least has the cooler from the reference model. Those are my three requirements to basically call these reference cards. I can't guarantee that these are all reference models, and not all of these are straight from AMD. I will call that out. But some of these are, and most of these are really interesting, in my opinion, to just take a look at. Because, have you ever gone on to Tech Power Up and just look at GPUs and wondered, I wonder what this reference design GPU, like, I don't know, GT1030, for example, would look like in real life, having the reference model straight from NVIDIA, no sub fender, no MSI, Gigabytes, Asus, whatever, just straight from NVIDIA with the cooler that they designed for it on it, and fan and everything. I find it really fascinating, really cool. And although all of these cards are AMD or ATI, I will spoil that, these are still very interesting cards in my opinion. So let's just get straight to it. So I have all of these cards laying on my bed, which you can probably see from there. I will grab these from worst to best in terms of performance. So let's get right to that. First up is a card that I did a fully fledged video on quite a while ago. It's the Radeon X600 Pro. Now, before you call me out, if you've watched that video, you will know that this is a Sapphire card. If you've watched that video, please go ahead on my channel and look up my X600 Pro versus X600 notebook GPU comparison. That video took me a long time to make and a lot of effort. It took me like 2 hours to make. It was lots of content that I also had to cut out in editing. I basically compared this card with a X600 that was in a laptop, which had much less VRAM than this. But this is a Sapphire card. It says it on the back, as you can see. Radeon, oh well, it doesn't say it on the back, never mind. Radeon X600 Pro 256MB TVO, which stands for TV out. But if you plug this into a computer and open GPU-Z on it, it says subvendor Sapphire slash PC partner. And from what I can tell, yes, this is a Sapphire card. If I look this up, there are barely any articles on it. But the thing is, all of the pictures that I can find online about this card, if I search up Sapphire X600 Pro, Radeon X600 Pro, 256MB TVO, I get this card with the same PCB, but with a different cooler on it that has a Sapphire sticker on it. Yeah, spoiler alert, one of these cards that I'm going to feature in this video has the same weirdness going on as this card, except it's reversed with the cooler. If you're confused, you will see that at the end of the video. It's the best card. But yeah, this says graphics by ATI on it, as you can see. This is just a ATI cooler, and it doesn't say Sapphire anywhere. But from what I can tell, this is a Sapphire card, because I don't think there are pretty much any 256MB versions of this card available other than the Sapphire version. I did see one of these listed online on a Dutch marketplace, and it was exactly the same card. I restored this card, by the way. These little pegs that keep the cooler in place, yeah, those are aftermarket. Those are from a broken motherboard, I think, because the original one, we had to steal one of them. I also replaced the thermal paste with a thermal pad, and I took apart the entire cooler and cleaned it. So this is a really nice card, really good condition. I completely cleaned it out. It's just that the fan is quite bad and really, really loud. So yeah, but all of these capacitors are good, which they look kind of sketchy in my opinion. But yeah, this is a regular X600, I guess, with a giant amount of VRAM. 256MB of VRAM is way too much for this card. We did a video about that, so I will not spoil too much, but I will spoil that it is way too much for this card. But go watch that video in case you're interested. But yeah, how did I get this card? Well, I found this at a random thrift shop that I went to with my grandma, and this was just sitting there in one of the bins as the only graphics card, basically, for like €2. So yeah, I bought it incredibly cheaply. Although I never actually did something good with it because the fan was really loud, the bearing was bad, and it also just needed, well, it didn't really need new thermal paste, but I would, if I want to use this, I would want to give it new thermal paste. But instead of giving it thermal paste, I just gave it a thermal pad, I guess, because I felt like doing that. I felt like that was a cleaner option, because this is a really weird cooler that is only aluminum and it's super tiny, and I was like, you know what, thermal pad is going to make slightly better contact than paste, I suppose. And the temps don't really matter. I know thermal pads are a lot less conductive than thermal paste, but with a card like this with such a tiny cooler, is that really going to matter at all to you? No, probably not. So I just threw a pad on there rather than waste some paste. So yeah, but this card works completely fine. I've never had any issues with it. It kind of sucks that it only has a VGA port and no DVI, which is what I primarily use around the house. I use DVI for everything, so that kind of sucks, but it also kind of sucks that I have nothing to hook up to the TV out, because that would be really cool if I had like a CRT that I could hook up to this, but I don't have the CRT, don't have a CRT, and don't have the room for a CRT. But yeah, that's the Radeon X600 Pro. I'm not sure how long I'll even keep this, but it works completely fine. It has no issues. It's a fine retro gaming card, but it's definitely not the greatest. But for late 90s games, early 2000s games that are simpler, 2D, with some 3D titles, this would be fine. This is fine. And a large amount of VRAM also makes you able to run this with a 1050p monitor or something like that. Something stupid resolution for the time. So yeah, that's basically the X600 Pro. I'm not 100% sure if this is a reference card or not. You can bash me in the comments if you don't agree, but I do think that this is at least partially a reference card, because it does have one of the requirements that I mentioned before, and that's that it does have a cooler with ATI on it. So yeah, this is not the first time Sapphire has done something weird like this, and you'll see that in this video at the end. So yeah, that's our first card. Let's go ahead and get to our second one. So this is our second card. Yeah, this is a weird one. I don't know much about this one either, so if you know anything about this GPU, let me know down in the comments. Now, this is a Dell card. I do know that, so the sub-vendor would be Dell. This is from Dell. I am 100% sure about that. But this came out of a really terrible computer. It was a Dell Optiplex 380, I think. and it had this GPU in it. It had a Celeron 430 in it. Yeah, it was absolutely atrocious. Only 1 gig of RAM. It's probably the worst socket 775 computer that I've ever seen. So yeah, it was absolutely atrocious, but it had this GPU paired with a freaking Celeron. So I was like, yeah, let's just take your GPU and throw away the entire thing. Now I haven't even bothered to clean this, as you can see. Um, it's quite dirty and it's also sticky, which is really gross. But I don't feel like cleaning this if I can't use it. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, Ruben, why can you not use this? Yeah, classic fashion Dell from the early 2000s. This has DMS59. Which, if you don't know what DMS59 is, it's basically this connector which OEMs used, especially Dell, to hook up multiple monitors to one port. So you would basically have this DMS59 connector, and you would have an adapter attached to it that has, like, I don't know, 2 VGAs, or more common are the 2 DVI-D adapters, and you just hook up 2 monitors to one port on a GPU. And this also has, I think that's S-Video. So yeah, that's basically what Dell did. They liked it. I don't. I will get an adapter for this. They're incredibly cheap on AliExpress. I'll just get a DMS59 to a single DVI adapter because I don't use dual monitors anywhere. So yeah, I have no idea what card this is. I'm pretty sure it is straight from AMD because this PCB with this green sticker really just screams AMD. So I'm pretty sure that this is a reference card, despite that I don't know what model this is. I guess this is either a HD 4000 series or 3000 series. Now that computer was on 2006, so let me research when the 4000 series launched, just so that I'm not, yapping bullshit. So I did a wild guess, and I think I'm actually really close. So the 4000 series came out in 08. But look at this. I searched up the 4350, which is a graphics card I've actually had before. But look at that. That's actually quite close, right? So this might actually be a 3450, which actually would be better than I was expecting. I was either expecting this to be a HD 3000 or 4000 series. Now it does say a model number on the back, which says B276. So maybe let's see. Let's go back to that graphics card. Let's see if it matches. I'm on my phone right now. I'm on the Tech Power web page. B750. So this is a B2776. Oh, so it's way different. Okay, so I was way off there, but it does use almost the same cooler. I'm guessing that this is a 3000 series card then, because 08, it's really late for a computer with a Celeron 430 in it, which I'm 100% sure came out in 06. But yeah, that is this card. I don't know what this is. If you do know what this is, let me know down in the comments. I'd really appreciate it, and I will buy an adapter for this one day, and play Half-Life 2 on it and old games to see how terrible it really is. So yeah, that's the mystery card. Let's get on to the next one. So our next card is actually pretty good. This is a ATI Radeon, and man, this thing is heavy compared to the previous cards. This is a ATI Radeon 2600 XT. And yeah, this is really one of the coolest ones. Look at that flame design. That is so early 2000s, mid 2000s. And yeah, I got this from my internship. So this is a 2000 series card, HD 2000 series. And it's pretty clear that this is a model pretty much straight from AMD. This is not 100% a reference AMD card. I'll touch on that in a bit. But yeah, you can clearly see the green sticker there, which is really indicator that this PCB is original reference and from AMD. But yeah, this is a 2600 XT, dual DVIs, single slot, which is really sweet. This was back when cards were still slim. After this generation, they were not so slim anymore, and you'll see that after this one. But yeah, no power connectors either, which is nice. But yeah, this was their mid-range offering. The best one was a 2900 XT. But yeah, this is also has the classic ATI Radeon graphics fan. Now this isn't 100% a straight from AMD card. I haven't even repasted this yet, by the way. But this is a Dell Radeon HD 2600 XT. So yeah, this also came from a Dell system, which is quite interesting that they put a card like this in here. Like that's so consumer, right? Like Dell makes so much business stuff. They also make consumer stuff, but they are so popular in the business environments that like why like the card we just took a look at with the DMS59 connector. That's a business card. That's from a business system. That was from a really ugly, awful Optiplex. That was absolutely disgusting. But yeah, this is I think a 256 megabyte card or a 512. I forgot. But yeah, the sub vendor is Dell, so that's something that Dell did bother to do. This card runs cool enough that I haven't even needed to repaste it. But yeah, I don't really use this one often because of the next card we're going to take a look at, which is my personal favorite out of all the reference cards that I have, and I really hope y'all will love it. But yeah, that's a 2600 XT. Pretty nice card. The fan is a little bit bad on this one. I got this one from my internship. It was just sitting there on the secondary workbench, and it sat there for weeks. I think it sat there for like 2 months, I'd say. And eventually I was like, you know what? I'm taking you home. And I'm glad I did, because this is pretty cool to have in my collection with that design. And it's also a pretty good card for retro gaming anyway, so it's really not that bad. And it also doesn't take any supplemental power, so you can throw this in a retro gaming PC, well, a PC that you want to make a retro gaming PC with like an awful power supply in it, like a proprietary Dell or HP that doesn't have supplemental power. It even has Crossfire, which is nice. I do have a Crossfire bridge, but I don't have a secondary one of these cards. I actually have none. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, this is quite a good card. That's how I got it from internship. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really know what type this is. But yeah, if we do type in AHD 2600 XT into Google, as you can see, reference. Completely reference design. It's actually 256 megabytes. So I was right about that. But yeah, that's this exact card. The one on the website. So that's... Oh, that's also always so nice to see. The reference card that you see on Tech Power Up is the one you actually have. So yeah, that really makes me love it. But yeah, that's the 2600 XT. Let's get to my personal favorite. This is my personal favorite Radeon card. That is a reference card that I have. This, as maybe some of you might have guessed already, is a HD 3870. This was the 3000 series flagship. Now I know there was a 3870X2. I know that exists, right? Before you scream in the comments that this was their flagship, this wasn't their absolute top end. I know, but this is basically their flagship, pretty much. Like, who would buy the X2? That is so... It's actually a dumb choice. Now this one does have supplemental power. Like I said, they were not that slim anymore in this series. But yeah, this is also a Dell card, which is pretty surprising. And this is my current graphics card in my retro gaming PC. So I use this actively. As you can see, classic green sticker. Only says the part number and the serial number on it, so it doesn't say the model number on it. In fact, this thing doesn't say the model number anywhere, from what I can tell. It also has 2 Crossfire headers. The screw is a little bit stripped there. The fan isn't stripped, that's not possible. The screw is a little bit stripped there. This has been taken apart several times because it runs really hot, and I'll touch on that in a bit. But yeah, look at this design, man. It's translucent. You can see the completely copper. It's 100% copper, by the way, under this red plastic. Completely copper under there. Now, eagle-eyed viewers have also probably seen that this thing is not in good condition, and that's entirely my fault. This card I think I picked up before I picked up the 2600 XT. This was also from internship, and this was actually given to me, and it was mint. It was in mint condition, but as you know me, I stack these graphics cards pretty much in 2 separate cardboard boxes. And this was sitting, something was sitting on top of this. A card was sitting on top of this, and that's what made these ugly scratches in this beautiful translucent plastic, and that's why the fan plastic area looks so horrible. But yeah, it doesn't do anything with it, functionally. It just makes it look cosmetically kind of bad. It is a dual slot card, 2 DVIs, 1 SVDO, and it is a blower style, just like the 2600 XT. But something interesting about this one is that the airflow, all the heat comes straight out of the case. The 2600 XT, which I'll get that, and also the mystery card, they both have this design where the heat gets out of the card like that, but it doesn't go out of the case. It just gets in the case. But the 3870, which it seems really dumb, I just noticed. But yeah, this card also has it, but who cares? This is a piece of crap. But yeah, these became so high TDP that I think ATI just realized, oh, we're probably gonna have to let all the air get out of the case, especially with people having Pentium 4s in their systems now, because this card was released in 07, 08, I think 08. This was ATI's response to the oh so classic and amazing 8800 GT. But yeah, as you can see, it does have copper cooling for the memory. I repasted this twice. I think I repasted this first with MX4, and after that I got MX6 with a spodger, and I completely spread it out with MX6 and did a little dimple in the middle and put the cooler back on. And even with that, it still runs hot. It idles hot because reference cards from this time period and on, at least the high-end ones from ATI, they run mad hot, especially the last card we're going to take a look at. That one is wild, but it already just amazes me that a card like this from 2008 with how much TDP? 106 watt TDP runs this hot. It gets like, I think 80 degrees. It's been a really long time since I've stress tested this thing, because I've mainly just been benchmarking CPUs and just been using this thing as a good display adapter that won't bottleneck the CPU in any way, because it is a really awesome card in my opinion. It's absolutely my favorite. It looks gorgeous, the performance is great, it's really quiet, which is the main reason it runs so hot. It can stand without having to hold it, but yeah, it does run really hot, but it also runs really quiet. It idles pretty cool, but since the fan is really quiet and really barely spinning, it does get the idling temperatures in the 40 degrees, and it does get to 80 degrees if you really stress it hard. So that kind of sucks in terms of cooling. This really was when the cooling started going downhill, which is something to note for the last card we're going to take a look at. But yeah, apart from the cooling flaws and the overall not so great cosmetic condition due to me being stupid, and also me being stupid with a screwdriver by stripping the screw, don't worry, it will be fine. Don't think I'm going to take this apart anymore, at least not in the coming time, because it doesn't get that hot anymore. Well, it still runs hot, but I repasted it twice. That's more than enough. But yeah, apart from that, this is a really great card. It performs well in games. It's not the best. It's not as good as an 8800 GT, of course. Also nowhere near as good as an 8800 GTX. But it is pretty close with a 9600 GT. But the 9600 GT is still 19% better. But that's actually pretty good. That's not bad at all. So yeah, this is quite a decent retro gaming graphics card as well. I also have a 9600 GT, by the way. So I also have that card. But yeah, this is definitely my favorite, just because of the absolutely gorgeous looking design. You can see the cooler through that. The fan is really quiet. It has good cooling everywhere for the VRMs and the memory. It has crossfire, and I'd absolutely love to get another one of these. It only takes a 6-pin, which is also really sweet. I have quite a few PSUs that only have a 6-pin or a 8-pin. And yeah, pretty much no negatives about this card, apart from it running hot, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I love this. I really love the 3870. Let me know down in the comments which one was your favorite in this video, but we still have a couple more to go before we're done. So yeah, that's the HD 3870, my favorite out of all of these. Let's get to the next one. So our next card is one that I actually picked up a couple weeks ago. Yeah, we're getting quite a lot newer now with these. This is a Radeon HD 7770 gigahertz edition, if you will. Yeah, it looks really good, right? It looks really sweet. This is my most recent find. Now, this was found in a Medion system, which is really interesting because the HD 3870 that we just took a look at came out of a Dell system, unknown Dell system. I don't know. I just got the card. The 2600 XT was Dell. The mystery DMS59 connector card was Dell. And the X600 Pro was a Sapphire custom card. So it's not really reference, but it had the cooler on it. So I guess it's technically a little bit reference. But this was pulled out of a Medion system. And as it turns out, you know how the cards we just took a look at are basically all reference, except, Dell does brand them with the whole subfender thing, so it does show up as Dell, but it's actually a card straight from ATI. Well, maybe Medion didn't do that. Now, this is really interesting, because I also have a Medion GTX 650, but that thing is completely custom. That is an MSI Medion GTX 650, and it has a completely different cooler from the reference 650. I think. I'm not 100% sure, but it's definitely not reference. It used a different PCB. I think a slightly different cooler and a different fan. But this was pulled out of a higher end, older Medion system, and this is 100% straight from AMD, from what I can tell. And as you can see, apart from the fingerprints, it's actually in really, really good condition. And that's mainly because I don't put any graphics cards on top of this one. I learned from the 3870. But yeah, this was gross when I got it. I'll show you all some pictures, but this thing was really gross. I completely restored this card. But yeah, before I show that, this was put out of a Medion system with a i5 2500K, which I took. It was just a normal consumer Medion system that might as well have been from an Aldi. Who knows? But yeah, I just found it really interesting. It did belong to the system from what I could tell. But yeah, I just find it really interesting that I was able to find a 100% reference edition. And I know, out of all of these cards in this video, I know 100% sure this is straight from AMD. Everything about it. And that just makes it really cool, in my opinion. I never had a 7000 series card, for desktop at least. I did have a couple laptops with it, but yeah, that's really, really cool. I'll show you the pictures of how gross this thing was. This is how gross it was when I got it. Yeah, look at that. That's absolutely disgusting. The entire system in general was just super bad. Really disgusting. Really dusty. Probably one of the dustiest, not the dustiest computer I've ever worked in. The Optiplex that I just mentioned, where the mystery cards came out of, with the DMS59 connector, that thing was even grosser. That thing was absolutely, I don't know what kind of dust that was, but that was like oily gross. It was really bad. But yeah, this thing was quite bad. I actually do have a couple videos of cleaning this thing, but yeah, it's really, really bad. And look at it now. Look at how pristine it is. It's absolutely amazing looking. Here's a slow motion video of my friends basically cleaning out the heatsink, which went pretty well. And here is a video of me taking off the cooler so y'all can see how gross it was underneath before cleaning. Yeah, look at that PCB. Look at that damn PCB. Holy shit, that is so much dust on just the PCB. Like, wow, man. It was really bad. But yeah, I did repaste the card, and that's how the final result looked. So much better. And I actually really like this card. Although it's a much more budgety mid-range card, pretty much all the ones we just took a look at were mid to high end, apart from the piece of shit mystery card. This is more, yeah, I guess higher range, mid-range, I guess. Like, higher up mid-range. Like, you know what I mean. Not quite high end, but, good mid-range. But yeah, as you can see, black PCB, also completely reference, green sticker from AMD, I'll Google this card real quick as well. But yeah, if you look it up on Tech Power Up, you can see that it should say Gigahertz Edition there. But if I look up this card and try to find the reference version, none of them say Gigahertz Edition on them. None of them. They all say ATI or AMD Radeon like mine does. None of them has to have this Gigahertz Edition sticker. I don't even think a 7770 Gigahertz Edition exists with that Gigahertz Edition sticker on there. Now this is a little bit different from the specifications, and I'll get to that. But yeah, this is a Gigahertz edition. This is not like a downclocked version or anything. So despite that it doesn't have the gigahertz oh my gosh, despite that it doesn't have the gigahertz sticker on there, it is a gigahertz edition because it does have the 1 gigahertz clock speed, as you can see. There you go, 1000 megahertz. That is the clock speed. So yeah, no worries about that. So yeah, it is 100% reference. And can I get a yeah? If you take a look, that PCB is exactly like mine, exactly. Except theirs had a yellow sticker, which is quite interesting. But that's a engineering sample. Just taking a look at it. So yeah, this is 100% straight from AMD. The subfender is ATI-AMD, so it's not a Medion subfender branded card either. This was just straight from AMD, probably bulk lot bought by Medion, and they just slapped it in their computers. And that just makes me love them. This is probably my second favorite cards because it also does have really good temperatures. It did get up to 85 degrees without a repaste, but after repasting it, it doesn't even reach 70. So this is a good cooler, despite being all aluminum. But yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites. I'm going to try and not get this as scratched up as the 3870, especially also considering that this is a black plastic glossy plastic, black glossy plastic, which means it will show up scratches even easier. But yeah, Radeon Graphics AMD. It has a VGA sticker there, which is funny because there is no VGA port. It just has one DVI, HDMI, finally, and crappy DisplayPort. So yeah, that's the HD7770 GHz edition reference. Definitely, for sure, my second favorite apart from the 3870. So yeah, let's get on to our last card, which is probably the most interesting one. Now here's the highest end best card that I have that is reference AMD in one out of the three ways. I bought this monster myself. This, and I know it's a little bit dirty. This, it barely fits in frame, is a AMD Radeon R9 290. Yeah. Oh boy, this is a monster. So I was scrolling on a Dutch marketplace website, and I was like, you know what? Let's just buy a graphics card that is, close to 1060 performance that I can just throw in a computer that I have and basically use it as a secondary gaming computer. And I found this R9 290 that was cheaper than all the others. Now these usually go for 60 to 90 euros in here in the Netherlands. So yeah, these are not cheap. If you can get these cheap, get them, because in the Netherlands these are not cheap and they are quite a bad deal. But this one was only listed for 30 euros and people didn't seem to trust it. So I was like, you know what, let's just give it a try. So 36 euros later, in a couple weeks, I got this card. And this card, I can see why it was priced a little bit lower, because the seller said it was working fine, but this card has, I'd say, sickness issues. This card has some issues. Now, when I first got this really didn't work right. It has a lot of artifacting. If you put a load on it, like Furmark or a game, it can randomly glitch out an artifact. The Radeon drivers can randomly crash. I've had issues where this doesn't give video on boot up. Like completely black, and then when the driver finally loads, it takes like 2 minutes to finally get a picture on the screen. I've had my computer completely froze with this card from it crashing. So yeah, that's the main issue. It also takes one 8-pin and one 6-pin, which is quite problematic because I don't have many power supplies that even have an 8-pin or a secondary 6-pin. Then I only have like two power supplies that have this. This is currently my main card in my secondary gaming computer when I'm upstairs. And yeah, this is, despite that it says Sapphire on it, I am also 100% sure that Sapphire was hella lazy with this card, because this is 100% sure straight from AMD. It used to have stickers here, I know, but they are peeled. I did not peel them, the original owner did. Classic indicator of a reference card, the green sticker. As you can see, where does it say it? There. This thing is so big. R9 290, 4 gig, GDDR5 PC, dual DVI, blah 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 blah. And as you can see, one also another interesting thing, it says ATI Technologies here. And when you put this into GPU-Z also reports that the sub vendor is AMD. And as you can see, right on the damn PCB there, it says AMD. So this PCB is straight from AMD. It's also not overclocked out of the factory or anything. So from what I can tell, this is just a reference R9 290 that was used way too heavily. I'll get into that in a bit, because it's really bad how abused this card is. With just Sapphire stickers thrown onto it, and then it was sold as a Sapphire R9 290 that was basically just a reference R9 290, except Sapphire wanted to make some money from it, I suppose. Now, a couple interesting things about this card is it has a little switch here. Now, this switch is for cooling. If I put it in this mode right here, it's a little bit louder, but it cools quite a bit better. If I put it in this mode, it's basically in quiet mode. So then the cooling is awful, but it is quieter, and it does torture your GPU. So I'm going to keep it in the louder spot because I don't care. Now this card has more than just one issue, which is, the artifacting and stuff like that. But if I had to be honest, if you see one of these for cheaper than, for example, a Sapphire Vapor X R9 290, don't buy one of these. You don't want to have a R9 290 reference. Basically, I've repasted this card 3 times now, and the cooler in this thing is so puny, it just can't do it. I've repasted it with MX6 twice, and this card was also repasted before the owner shipped it to me, because when I took this card apart, the paste was completely wet, and I'm 100% sure he repasted it before giving it to me. I've also went over the chip with a heat gun a couple times, and that really didn't change its behavior at all. It's still artifacts and shit like that. So it might be VRAM corruption. I'm not sure. Maybe if you know more about that, let me know down in the comments. But yeah, you don't want to have one of these. These are absolute room heaters. These are like Ryzen 7000 series and up CPUs in terms of room heater. This is a 250 watt card as well. So that's absolutely giant TDP. And all the cooler is under this plastic mass, which actually doesn't feel too bad. This card does feel really premium. It's just a block of copper that's cooling. It looks a lot like the 3870, except you can't see it until you take the card apart. And that's just not sufficient. The fan is really powerful. It does get incredibly loud. It even makes my PC case vibrate. It can go really loud and really high. But for some reason, AMD thought it was a great idea to make this card focus on being quiet and focus on acoustics, but not focus on cooling whatsoever. So yeah, this thing runs incredibly hot. This thing gets over 90 degrees Celsius unless you decide to turn up the fan yourself. Then you can get it down to around in the 70s. But this is with a incredibly thick amount of layer of MX6, because the first MX6 layer that I put on here completely spread out. I guess it wasn't thick enough, because when I took apart the card, it looked like it just drowned through, like the cooler just pushed through the thermal paste and the chip was a little bit exposed. So I put a really thick layer of MX6 on there, and it didn't really improve anything. And there's also a burn spot on the copper core of the cooler. If you take off the cooler of this thing, you will see a purple spot on the place where the chip normally is, which means this thing has gone through so many thermal cycles and has gotten so hot over time. Yeah, I think that's just part of the reason why this is artifacting and glitching out so much, which is a shame, really, because one of the reasons why I wanted to get this one is because it's a reference model, but you really don't want to get one of those. if it's an R9 290. If it's like a 270X, for example, or the 7770, it's completely fine. But I don't know what AMD was thinking here, but it just didn't go well. This thing runs way too hot, and although the card can handle it, if you what a problem that I also have is that if you let this card cool down to around 40 degrees from 90, it also completely glitches out and gets really mad. So yeah, this card is quite faulty, despite that it is in working condition, and it's not great. It's not great, but I do enjoy using it when I can because it's quite a powerful card still. It's good for 1080p, excellent for 900p, despite being marketed as a 4K card on the box, which is quite funny. No, this can't do 4K. This cannot do 4K at all. Maybe my 1080 Ti can do that. I know it can, but this can't. This can't. With 4 gigabytes of VRAM, you're not gonna be able to do 4K unless you run like a simpler game. But yeah, that's the R9 290. The only card that I actually paid anything for in this video. I don't have regrets. I like that I have this. I'm glad that I'm actually the victim here. Because if someone else got this card with its issues, they would have gotten really mad at that seller, and maybe it was like a fire starter basically. But instead, I am the one who has this card. I know its issues. I kind of know what helps it, and I basically helped someone out. I basically helped out the person who wanted to get this instead. So, yeah, I'm glad that I got this so that I am the one who is the victim and not someone else who is not tech savvy unlike me. So, yeah, that's the R9 290, the last card that I have. It is quite a good card. I do like it. I just don't like that it says Sapphire on it because this is not a Sapphire card at all. This is just a straight from AMD card that Sapphire threw the sticker on. And there's also a Gigabyte version of this card that has the exact same issue. It's 100% a reference. It shows up as a reference on GPU Z. It says subfender ATI-AMD. It has the AMD PCB. It has the AMD cooler. But it just says Gigabyte on it with the stupid sticker. And this also has a Sapphire sticker somewhere. I think on the inside somewhere. But yeah, really stupid. I don't know why Sapphire and Gigabyte did this. I think there's also another subfender that did this. But yeah, that's basically my R9 290. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this one. And if you have any tips with what I can do with this card to kind of fix it up maybe, also let me know. I'd appreciate that too. So yeah, that basically concludes this video. Now here are all my reference cards on the bed for you to look at for a final time. So you can decide which one is your favorite, and you can let me know down in the comments which one is your favorite, because I'd really like to know. And if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Leave a comment down below if you want. I also really like that. Leave a like if you want, subscribe if you want. I'm not forcing you to, only if you want to and if you really enjoyed this content. Really hope you did. Most importantly, have a great day. Choose your favorite, and see y'all in the next video.